the main gate of the palace suddenly burst into flames. The flames burned toward the direction Noah pointed at with his flag, and the magnificent main gate was burned black instantly. The 10,000-year-old ebony signboard engraved with South Atlantic Dragon Palace was burned to ashes. It seemed like the entire South Atlantic Dragon Palace would be engulfed by the fire. By now, the elders in the palace had finally realized the severity of the attack, and they created bright red energy spheres and covered the buildings in the palace. Jacob injected all his fire elemental essence into the conch, and the sea of fire the conch created made him feel like he was the master of the world. He imagined that it must be similar to the feeling of being at the 8th level. A trace of 5 elemental essence could summon thousands and even tens of thousands of times the nature essence. While he injected all his fire elemental essence into the conch, he felt like all the fire elemental essence in the area was summoned. The insignificant-looking conch was indeed powerful. At this moment, Jacob felt as if he was a reincarnation of the fire god. The South Atlantic Dragon Palace connected red energy spheres end to end, forming an array that instantly forced the flames out of the main gate. 28 Constellations flame array? Noah narrowed his eyes and snorted. You tried to counter my fire array with this flame array? Okay, I'll burn you into submission. He turned and touched the conch with his fingers several times. A light flashed on the conch. Although Jacob didn't sense any changes in the input of his nature essence, he found that the fire elemental essence around him became more intense. While the intensity of the fire elemental essence in the conch doubled, the flames surrounding half of the South Atlantic Dragon Palace doubled in fierceness. The fire elemental essence from the surrounding area surged towards the central spot. The South Atlantic Dragon Palace was no match for the fire elemental essence in an area with a diameter of 100 miles. The power of the attack far surpassed the strength of a cultivator on the 8th level. It was almost the power of a soul formation realm master. The overwhelming flames instantly swallowed the array formation formed by the dozens of red energy spheres, and the buildings immediately burst into flames. The cultivators in the South Atlantic Dragon Palace scrambled to flee in all directions. The purple-robed elders, who were hiding in the palace controlling the array formations, flew out in panic. The moment they were in the air, a surge of hot waves welcomed them and scorched their hair and eyebrows. They landed on the ground and ran toward the rear of the palace that had not been burned yet. The 16 most powerful elders in South Atlantic had lost their cultivation strengths, and Grandmaster Hank had been in seclusion since his return from the North Atlantic. In short, the entire South Atlantic Dragon Palace had no one in charge. For South Atlantic, disasters piled on one another. Seeing that the fire got so big that it would burn the entire South Atlantic Dragon Palace into ashes, Jacob put the conch away. The fire elemental essences quickly dispersed, while half of the South Atlantic Dragon Palace was still burning. As a core building collapsed, the palace's basic water defense array formation broke, and endless water rushed into the Dragon Palace. The buildings that had been burned collapsed quickly under the force of the water. All kinds of treasures, elixirs, scrolls, and techniques in the Dragon Palace were flushed out everywhere, and countless things got damaged in the crash. The South Atlantic Dragon Palace was flooded. The buildings near the main gate were instantly turned into debris, and the majestic main gate and the defense walls of the South Atlantic Dragon Palace collapsed as well. Jacob thought that Noah would stop after causing some damage. However, half of the South Atlantic Dragon Palace had been destroyed under their combined force. Noah's expression changed slightly when he saw the amount of damage he had done, and he murmured to himself, "Damn, the South Atlantic Dragon Palace is as fragile as a piece of cake." After a moment of consideration, he waved his hands, and the flags around the palace instantly returned to his sleeves. Then, he took out the flight treasure before pulling Jacob and Snowflake onto it with him. Obviously, he knew that he had messed up. A magnificent building in the rear of the South Atlantic Dragon Palace created a backup water defense array and protected the rear half of the Dragon Palace from being flooded. "Who dared to destroy my palace?" From the back mountain of the South Atlantic Dragon Palace rose a white light beam. Grandmaster Hank flew toward the damaged main gate on a white blade. He sensed the attack on the South Atlantic Dragon Palace while he was in seclusion in the back mountain. However, with only the strength of 3rd level, he had to pretend that he didn't hear anything and hide in the back mountain that was protected by the elders. But now, since half of the South Atlantic Dragon Palace was flooded, he couldn't hide anymore. He risked his life and rushed out. Noah knew that he caused too much trouble, but he was not a coward. Seeing Grandmaster Hank, his temper went up as well. He put away the flight treasure and just stood there. Grandmaster Hank rushed out in a burst of rage. When he looked back and saw none of the elders had followed him, he panicked a little. However, he was experienced and was good at hiding his panic. At the sight of Jacob and Noah, he shouted angrily, "You!" Jacob picked up Snowflake and remained silent. Clutching the flags in his hand, Noah looked at Jacob and Grandmaster Hank, and his face turned stern. Seeing them ignore him, Grandmaster Hank was livid with fury. However, he only had the cultivation strength of the 3rd level, and his enemies had powerful treasures. He didn't dare act too tough. Meanwhile, Noah thought everything through quickly. He was not afraid of the so-called Old Dragon King of the South Atlantic Dragon Palace, but if his master, Thomas, found out that he had destroyed half of the South Atlantic Dragon Palace, the home base of the South Atlantic clan, he would be severely punished. "This is what you get for messing with my big brother. I couldn't stop him from getting his revenge," Noah immediately said. "Who's your big brother?" Grandmaster Hank stared at them viciously. "You are still trying to act fierce with us? I'll burn down the other half of your dragon palace." Noah took the conch from Jacob's hands and bluffed. Seeing sparks flying out of the conch, Grandmaster Hank took half a step back in astonishment and fear, but he persisted. "Who is your big brother?" His tone softened, turned from a threat to an inquiry. "He is my big brother." Noah gestured to Jacob by his side. Grandmaster Hank was surprised. How come Jacob is this kid's big brother? With Snowflake in his arms, Jacob was also surprised. After all, he thought he was only a helper. When did I become Noah's big brother? He thought. Right, he's my big brother. You know who my master is, right? My master plans to take him as one of his disciples. Since you dared to bully him, you deserve to get your entire palace burned down. Be glad that we only burned half of it. The more he spoke, the fiercer he got. Noah even bluffed with the name of his master so that Grandmaster Hank wouldn't dare to blame him. As long as Jacob took the bulk of the blame, he didn't mind being the little brother. He looked like a kid anyways. Grandmaster Hank looked at Jacob in alarm, wondering if Noah was telling the truth. If Jacob was indeed Thomas's future disciple, he didn't dare to make an impulsive move against two of Thomas's disciples who had burned down half of his dragon palace. Why are you still standing there? Do you want me to burn down the other half of your dragon palace? Apologize to my big brother. Noah puffed up his chest and yelled in a high-pitched voice. Grandmaster Hank's face turned from livid to white, angry that this kid demanded him to apologize to Jacob after getting half of his dragon palace burned down. I won't ask you twice. Noah took the conch and injected a surge of fire elemental nature essence into it. Although he only had the cultivation strength of the second level, the essences were extremely pure. Standing before him, Grandmaster Hank instantly sensed the significant increase in the fire elemental essence in the area. Alarmed, he raised his hand and said, "Wait, wait!" Since Noah's master was Thomas, Grandmaster Hank could do nothing but admit defeat, because even the Dragon God Shrine wouldn't dare to do justice for him and punish Noah. If Jacob were only an assisting inspector, he could go and sue him at the Dragon God Shrine for destroying the South Atlantic Dragon Palace. However, if he were also related to Thomas, then... "Master Jacob, forgive me for offending you." Grandmaster Hank clenched his hands and bowed in front of Jacob. His fists clenched so tight that they shook slightly, showing the fury inside of him. Jacob waved his hand graciously. "If there's nothing else, I'll head back." Grandmaster Hank looked at Noah and said cautiously. "Who allowed you to go back?" Noah yelled. "I'm not finished yet." Even though he was burning with rage, Grandmaster Hank had to stop and ask, "Little Master, what can I do for you?" "Lean over, and I'll return the slap you gave me last time. Oh yes, I'll add the kick your grandson gave me too." Noah lifted his head and said. Grandmaster Hank was furious. "This kid still wants revenge after burning down half of my palace?" As the leader of the South Atlantic Dragon Clan, he would never disgrace himself this way. Seeing the expression on Grandmaster Hank's face change like the colors of the rainbow, Noah waved his hand. "Forget it. I'll forgive you if you compensate me with some stuff." Grandmaster Hank inhaled sharply and suppressed his anger. "We are a poor clan. What do you want?" With Snowflake in his arms, Jacob nodded slightly and thought, "This Noah is indeed a ruthless kid. He is making me the scapegoat. However, this settled the new and old accounts for both of us, and it is not a bad deal." Unhurriedly, Noah took a breath and said, "Hand over carriages of pearls, agates, purple gold sands, and other materials. I can take them all with me. Besides, the days are getting cold, and I need to prepare some clothes for Snowflake here. Hand over the purple gold crown, the lotus cloud boots, and the platinum chainmail." "Getting cold? It is going to be summer soon." Grandmaster Hank was speechless. 3 things Noah mentioned were the ultimate treasures in the South Atlantic Dragon Palace. Snowflake jumped from Jacob's arms and swam happily around Noah. Jacob could only look at Noah in admiration.